I mean, technically it's 3D, but this doesn't count.
What's going on, guys? I'm Jeff, the Yoshi Fanatic, and I've got a secret for you. Come closer. Closer. A little closer. My favorite game isn't even a Yoshi game. I know, that might be shocking. Sacrilege even, but my favorite game is actually this one.
Super Mario 64, one of the first 3D games ever made, and the first game to really get 3D right. It stayed true to what made Super Mario Bros. Iconic, but it expanded the gameplay into the third dimension, adding new and exciting mechanics and level designs that could only be done in 3D. This game was a huge deal when it came out, and it still is to this day. Of course, Super Mario 64 is only one example of a game series that started with 2D and then explored the 3D route. Some notable ones are The Legend of Zelda with Ocarina of Time, which essentially reimagined A Link to the Past in a 3D context, and Metroid Prime, which completely changed the gameplay to work in 3D, yet still stayed true to what made Metroid so iconic. Even the indie game Blue Fire was so exciting for me, because it reminded me of Hollow Knight, but in 3D.
Most of the time, these 3D games are big, exciting adventures that really grab fans' attention. They often receive critical acclaim, and are often the best sellers in their respective franchises. They're a big deal. So why hasn't Yoshi gotten one yet?
I mean, obviously I love the Yoshi game series, but if I'm being honest, it needs a bit of a refresher. All of the main games in the Yoshi series are 2D side-scrollers, and the best one is still the first one, Yoshi's Island. Coincidentally, it's also the best-selling Yoshi game, and it's not particularly close. On top of that, most of the newer games like Woolly World and Crafted World just try to replicate Island's gameplay and charm.
Now, don't get me wrong, I love Yoshi's Island. But in my opinion, we need something new and exciting for the Yoshi series, and I think a 3D game could do the trick. However, even though Yoshi's main games are 2D side-scrolling platforming games, they're quite a bit different from other 2D platformers that have made the jump to 3D, like Super Mario Bros. And Sonic the Hedgehog. So, what would a 3D Yoshi game be like?
Now, it is worth mentioning that I am not a video game designer, so this won't be the most in-depth concept, but I do have some ideas, so let's dive in. Right off the bat, I don't think Yoshi should carry Baby Mario in this game. Instead, he'd set off on his own adventure, like in Yoshi's Story, Yoshi Topsy-Turvy, Yoshi's Woolly World, and Yoshi's Crafted World. While I will admit the Yoshi's Island system of carrying Baby Mario is neat, creative even, I do prefer the style of playing as just Yoshi. Okay, so with that out of the way, the first major thing that comes to mind when I think of a 3D game is how the character moves and controls in a three-dimensional space. Obviously, there aren't any mainline Yoshi games we can base this off of, but there are two games that show how Yoshi's moveset would translate to 3D, Super Mario 64 DS and Super Mario Odyssey. Let's start with 64 DS. This game gives Yoshi pretty much the same moveset as Mario in the original game, with the exception of the wall jump, dive, punch, and kick. Technically, Yoshi can punch and kick if he picks up a super mushroom, but that doesn't really count. I don't think Mario's more acrobatic moves like the triple jump and backflip are appropriate for Yoshi's moveset, but the ground pound certainly is. This move was in the original Super Mario 64, and it isn't specific to just Yoshi, but regardless, this is essential to have in Yoshi's moveset. As to my knowledge, Yoshi's Island was the first game to introduce a ground pound for the playable character. Some Yoshi staples do appear as well, such as the gobble move, egg throw, and flutter jump. This game would be the basis for how these moves work in a 3D Yoshi game, so let's take a look at these moves more in depth. First up is the gobble move. In the 2D Yoshi games, Yoshi could aim his tongue to gobble either directly in front of him or above him. The only exception to this is Yoshi's Story, which allows you to aim Yoshi's tongue in any direction. This certainly works in 2D gameplay, but it would need to be a bit more streamlined to work well in 3D. In Mario 64 DS, Yoshi's tongue extends straight out in front of him, unless there is a nearby object of interest, such as enemies, blocks, coins, and flames. He can even eat the Power Stars. I mean, come on, that's hilarious. I think this works great, and it's how I would expect Yoshi's gobble move to work in a 3D Yoshi game. Next up is the flutter jump. Yoshi uses this move to gain height after a jump by kicking his feet and floating for an extra second. In the 2D games, except for Yoshi Topsy-Turvy, Yoshi can flutter jump repeatedly, even indefinitely with proper timing. Obviously, this should be reworked for a 3D Yoshi game, as this infinite flutter jump would easily break most, if not all, platforming challenges. A similar example of a move like this being converted to 3D can be found in the Metroid series, the Screw Attack. This move allows Samus to perform a spinning jump in the air, which creates an energy field around her that destroys enemies and terrain with ease. In the 2D Metroid games, Samus can perform this move indefinitely without ever touching the ground. However, in Metroid Prime 2, the first 3D game to include the Screw Attack, Samus can only perform the Screw Attack 5 times before touching the ground. It still destroys enemies, but not terrain. This balances the move so that it isn't overpowered in the 3D space. Mario 64 DS actually handles this quite well. In this game, Yoshi can only flutter jump once, which allows him to correct a bad jump, or extend his jump to reach higher ledges, or cross wider gaps. This is perfect, because it gives Yoshi extra utility in his jump while not completely destroying the level design. Alright, the last move is the most complicated one to rework in 3D, the Egg Toss.
I knew you were gonna give us trouble.
In the Yoshi's Island games and Yoshi's Woolly World, the egg throw utilizes a cursor that moves in front of Yoshi in a semicircle, and the target can be aimed anywhere within the constraints of that semicircle. Yoshi's Story and Yoshi's Crafted World both allow Yoshi to aim the egg more freely in any direction, even in 3D in the case of Yoshi's Crafted World, although it's pretty clunky in that game. Again, this move needs to be more streamlined for a 3D game, as the aiming style of the 2D games wouldn't translate very well into a 3D one. Mario 64 DS gives us a good baseline. In this game, the egg throw acts very similarly to Yoshi's Gobble move, being aimed straight ahead unless there are enemies nearby. The egg can ricochet off of several enemies before it breaks, which is awesome! Interestingly, whatever Yoshi ate to make the egg will drop its respective number of coins for each enemy it hits. For example, if Yoshi gobbled a Koopa Troopa and created an egg with it, throwing the egg at one Goomba would drop a blue coin from the Koopa Troopa and a gold coin from the Goomba, a total of 6 coins. If Yoshi threw the same egg and hit 3 Goombas with it, the result would be 3 blue coins and 3 gold coins, a total of 18 coins. I really like this, and I think it should carry over to a 3D Yoshi game. Honestly, Mario 64 handles the egg throw mechanic in 3D very well, but I think that we can add to it. Yoshi should also have the option to aim an egg throw with an aiming mode. The aiming could be done similarly to Yoshi's Crafted World, specifically in the level Jungle Tour Challenge. This level lets Yoshi freely aim his egg toss in 3D, unlike the rest of the game, where the cursor is aimed in 2D and snaps to objects of interest in the foreground or the background. Blech. As for the aiming controls, this could be done in 2 ways. Do you remember the patient and hasty control options from Yoshi's Island? These were essentially 2 modes for the egg toss controls. In the patient mode, you hit the button once to start the egg toss, then a second time to throw the egg. Meanwhile, in the hasty mode, you hold the button to start the egg toss and then release the button to throw the egg. This could be adapted to a 3D Yoshi game so that quickly pressing the button results in a throw straight ahead or at items of interest, like in Mario 64 DS, and holding the button puts Yoshi into a manual aiming mode, then releasing the button would make Yoshi throw the egg. This would work just fine, but it should be noted that most modern controllers have plenty of buttons, so you could just as easily use 2 buttons for the aiming mechanic. For example, the ZL button could be used as the aiming button, and the ZR button could be used as the egg throwing button, pretty much the standard shooter controls. There's a few more miscellaneous items to consider for the egg toss. First, in most of the 2D Yoshi games, Yoshi can move freely while aiming. This may seem like a no-brainer, but Yoshi's Story and Crafted World don't allow for this. I think that Yoshi should be able to move freely while aiming his egg toss in a 3D game. Of course, this would necessitate the use of both analog sticks, the left stick for movement and the right stick for aiming. Second, I think that the egg should be allowed to ricochet off of walls and other surfaces. Finally, in Mario 64 DS, Yoshi can only carry 1 egg at a time, whereas in the Yoshi games, he can hold up to 6. I'd expect to be able to hold up to 6 eggs in a 3D Yoshi game. And as cute as it is to have the eggs bouncing behind you, I think it would be better to have the number of Yoshi eggs relegated to a counter in the HUD. It would be much less distracting that way. Now let's talk a little bit about Super Mario Odyssey. In this game, Mario can capture Yoshi in both the Mushroom Kingdom and the darker side of the moon. Yoshi doesn't have his signature ground pound or egg toss, but he does have most of his other signature moves, including his flutter jump and his gobble move. Unlike Mario 64 DS though, Mario Odyssey allows Yoshi to wall jump, but with a bit of an interesting twist. When jumping towards a wall, Yoshi can extend his tongue towards it, and he'll stick to the wall until the player moves or jumps. Doing this move repeatedly between two nearby opposite-facing walls will allow Yoshi to wall jump up the walls, much like Mario would. I think this is a very creative way to incorporate wall jumps into Yoshi's moveset, and I would love to see this in a 3D Yoshi game. Also, Super Mario Odyssey has the fluid control style I would like to see replicated in a 3D Yoshi game, as opposed to the stiff 8-directional control of Mario 64 DS. Okay, let's move on to the world structure. I think that a 3D Yoshi game should retain the same number of normal worlds as a typical Yoshi game, that being 6 worlds comprised of about 8 levels, although I'm certainly not opposed to some diversity in the number of levels per world a la Yoshi's Crafted World. That game introduced more variety with its 16 worlds having 3 or so levels apiece, but it did make the worlds less memorable. A 3D Yoshi game could certainly have different sections in each world that comprise of a certain theme and give some more variety, but 6 large worlds with about 8 levels apiece would be ideal in my mind. As far as bosses are concerned, I think that the game should follow Yoshi's Crafted World's example of having a dedicated stage for each boss. I also think that there should be a mid-world boss and an end-world boss as in Yoshi's Island and Yoshi's Woolly World. There should also be one unlockable S level in each of the 6 worlds. Each S level in all of the 6 worlds could act as a key to unlocking the final world in the game, World 7, which could be an additional full world of 8 levels, 2 bosses, and additional challenges. Each of these levels and challenges would be much more difficult than the rest of the game, and more in line with the difficulty typically associated with the Yoshi S level. Finally, I think that the overworld maps themselves should be explorable and filled with secrets. This would give you something fun to do outside of the main levels. Yoshi's Woolly World kind of experimented with this idea, allowing you to freely move around the level select area and swap Yoshis, but it didn't go any further than that. Super Mario 3D World also did something like this, but unlike Yoshi's Woolly World, it did hide some secrets for you to find in the overworld, like, coins, and an occasional extra life. Okay, it didn't get super involved either. When it comes to mixing gameplay between the overworld map and the main levels themselves, one game in particular sticks out in my mind, Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair. In this game, the levels can be completed in practically any order, and there are plenty of puzzles, challenge levels, and secrets hidden throughout the overworld. These can unlock secret collectibles, power-ups, or even entire levels. I'm not gonna lie, when I played this game, I spent almost as much time playing in the overworld as I did playing the main levels. It was a great change of pace, and I felt like it was quite innovative. Let's get back to Yoshi though. In a 3D Yoshi game, the level select map could include mini-games and challenges. Some of these could be hidden, and even require solving a small puzzle to find. This would be somewhere between Super Mario 3D World and Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair, having the linear level progression of 3D World, while also having the puzzle solving and secrets of Yooka-Laylee to unlock badges and items. Also, just for good measure, the worlds don't need to require all of the levels to be beaten. They could follow the example of New Super Mario Bros., which includes branching paths that can be used to skip some levels. Well, now that we've covered the world structure, let's talk about the levels themselves, shall we? In keeping with the spirit of the Yoshi's Island formula, I think that the levels should stay relatively linear, with a definitive end goal in each level. There can be plenty of secrets that lead to the level's collectibles and other challenges, as is the case in most of the main Yoshi games. Typical Yoshi games will have optional objectives in each level: beat the level with full health, find all 20 red coins or an equivalent item, and find all 5 smiley flowers. I think this is good, tried and true, but I want to build on this a little more. Finishing a level with full health and finding all 20 red coins didn't really have much of a purpose until Yoshi's Crafted World, where completing these objectives each rewarded the player with 1 additional smiley flower. I really liked this change, and I think it should be incorporated in this 3D game. Speaking of smiley flowers, these could serve 2 purposes. First, they could be used like the star coins in the New Super Mario Bros. Games, unlocking branching paths to play optional levels or skip some levels, and unlocking the mini-games and challenges in each world. This would give the player an incentive to collect them without feeling like it's a requirement. We'll talk about the smiley flower's second purpose in a bit. The levels should be designed to fully utilize Yoshi's moveset. There could be 3D platforming challenges, light puzzle elements, pretty much the standard fare for 3D platformers. Wall jump sections could be designed to make use of Yoshi's new wall jump mechanic. Moving platform sections could take advantage of Yoshi's flutter jump. Target challenges similar to Yoshi's Crafted World would be great for Yoshi's 3D aiming. The possibilities are endless. One thing that's common in the 2D Yoshi games that just wouldn't fly in a 3D one is the invisible item clouds. The 2D Yoshi games had a tendency to hide coins, additional health, smiley flowers, and even some secret entrances in invisible clouds, which only appear when Yoshi touches them or throws an egg at them. This means that if you're looking for all of the secrets, you have to cover every square inch of the level to make sure you didn't miss any of the invisible clouds. While it's tedious and annoying, it's at least tolerable in the 2D games, but imagine how much worse it would be in 3D. No, I think that this mechanic should be abandoned for a 3D game. There could still be hidden items and secret entrances, but these should be uncovered by finding and activating an inconspicuous switch of some kind. These switches could be hidden, but absolutely not invisible. There is one more change I would really like to see made to the Yoshi's Island level design, and it's found in what was supposed to be the first 3D Yoshi game. Croc, Legend of the Gobos. Or is it pronounced Gobos? I don't know, I'm sticking with Gobos. It's got a similar level structure to the Yoshi games, being a mostly linear romp through a stage with some secrets and collectibles. In Croc though, the collectibles are 5 colored gems and 6 Gobos, who are downright adorable. I mean, look at them, they're so cute! Now, you can find 5 of the 6 Gobos in the main level, but if you want to find all 6 of them, you have to find the 5 gems, which open a locked door at the end of the level. This leads to a special challenge to collect the 6th Gobo in the level. Every 3 stages, finding all of the Gobos unlocks a secret level where instead of collecting Gobos and colored gems, you play through the level to pick up a puzzle piece at the end. Finding all of the puzzle pieces in the 4 normal worlds unlocks a secret 5th world, which contains 4 remixed, more challenging levels and 1 secret boss fight. I think this is brilliant, and it's a great incentive to get all of the collectibles. This could be slightly reworked for a 3D Yoshi game. The main level could contain all of the normal collectibles, and finding all of the smiley flowers could unlock a door at the end of the level, where you have to complete a challenge to unlock a new type of item, maybe like a sparkly gem or something. Collecting all of the gems in a world would unlock the S level for that world, each of which has another special item, a piece of a special key that unlocks the optional 7th world. This would be a great completion bonus, giving the player an incentive to find all of the collectibles and play each level to its fullest potential. Okay, I think that should do it for the level design, but there's one more little detail I'd like to quickly mention here. Badges. Yoshi's Woolly World introduced the badge system, which is basically a reworked version of the item system from Yoshi's Island. Equipping a badge gives Yoshi a special effect or perk, and these badges could either help players through a level or just be used for fun. Similarly to Yoshi's Woolly World, these badges could be equipped before going into the level, and each one would require a certain number of coins to be used. Also, only one badge can be equipped for each playthrough of a level. These badges can be unlocked by playing the challenges in each world, and they shouldn't be required to complete any of the levels. However, they can have a wide range of effects. Some could give Yoshi a buff, like granting 3 flutter jumps without touching the ground instead of just 1, holding a larger number of eggs at once, running faster, etc. Some could make the level more challenging, resulting in more extra lives and more coins. And some could just be aesthetic, like making Yoshi sparkle or some such visual effect. Really, there could be a huge variety of badges to choose from, and these would be a great incentive for completing all of the game's optional challenges.
Well, there you go. Those are my thoughts on what a 3D Yoshi game would be like. I think this game would give the Yoshi series a good boost, maybe even make it one of Nintendo's heavy hitter franchises. Okay, well, maybe that's a little optimistic, but I would still love to see a Yoshi game like this, and I think it would be really good for the Yoshi series. Although, there is one more critical thing that this game has to do to be truly great. Yoshi has to be able to eat boxes and make them into cube-shaped eggs like Mario 64 DS. Otherwise, the game might suck.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe so you'll be notified when I make more videos like this. Also, I post updates and chat with the fans in my Discord server, so feel free to join. Thanks again for watching. See you next time.